What's going on YouTube? It's Teej, back again with another video, and today we're coming at you with another 2-round NFL mock draft. Excited to bring this your way. It's been a couple weeks, a lot has changed, including the draft order, and of course some new names we got to talk about, and then some names that are fallers. So let me know your thoughts on this mock draft down below in the comments section. Who's your favorite team? Do you like the picks that I gave your squad? Who goes too high? Who goes too low? All that fun stuff. Let me hear it down below in the comments section. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. That like button. If you're new around here, last mock draft we did was the highest viewed video on my channel. So if you're new around here, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we got a lot more mock draft content coming your way. All right, let's go ahead and start and begin with the Chicago Bears at 1. I'm gonna go Caleb Williams. I've been going Drake Maye the last few drafts, but I really do see it as a 1A, 1B. I just like Maye's ability to play within a system, get the ball out quick a little bit more than Williams, but Williams off script, outside the pocket, big time creator there. And I think both these guys, I think there's an argument to sell you on Chicago being scared of Williams because he can't go to the ball quick. You could sell Bears fans on being afraid of Drake Maye because UNC quarterback. So ultimately, it's a tough spot for Chicago. And look, I'll be honest, this isn't their pick, and there's a world where Justin Fields balls out the rest of the year. I'm not hard committing to this being a quarterback. We'll see what ends up happening, and if they decide that Fields is the guy, they can get haul for this #1 overall pick, just like they did last year, and still maybe land someone like a Marvin Harrison Jr. or a Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze or someone like that who can still impact the offense. So right now I'm going Caleb Williams, but trust me, I know there's a lot of Bears fans that are still, convinced that Fields is going to be the guy. I think the rest of the season is ultimately going to be the deciding point. So we'll wait and see. Right now, I'm going to go quarterbacks because I'm not sold on Fields. So spin Maye. This time I want to mix it up and go back to Caleb Williams, which then makes it really easy at number 2. Drake Maye, quarterback to the New England Patriots. Again, I think these guys are 1A, 1B. Both guys would have been the first, quarterback off the board last year. In the year before that, of course, with the Pickett draft. So I like these guys both a ton, and I've talked about them both a lot. So I'll save everyone the time of a full scouting report. Go back, check out some previous videos, including my quarterback rankings. But I will do an updated position ranking, so you'll also be able to check that out because if maybe you're new to the video and new to the channel, Maye is my quarterback 1. So this draft order is going against my board a little bit, but always want to play with different scenarios. Then we get to number 3. This is a very chalky beginning to this mock. All that said, Marvin Harrison Jr., you make him the clear-cut 1 for Kyler Murray. That's a really awesome, kind of face of the franchise duo moving forward. And you invest a first-round pick in Paris Johnson Jr. You're seeing this offense starting to come together. You can see the pieces starting to form the puzzle. So would love this addition. Also, we'll see what ends up happening at 1 and 2. And I wouldn't be shocked if ultimately this is a pick they move out of, too, just because of Monty Austin-Forth and how he navigated the draft board last year, his background in New England. So who knows? And this is a deep receiver class. So I think there's going to be conversations of, do you need Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3, or can you wait till the top of the second round? Can you get someone later in the first? I think there's conversation to be had, but to me, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, those are blue chip guys, and Rome Odunze is not far behind. So these receivers who could all go top 10, I think they deserve that. So love the idea of Maserati Marv ending up in Arizona. Then to Washington, and this is another one where ultimately, this is going to be me following my position rankings. I think I still have Alt a little bit ahead of Olu Fashanu. And I just wanted to explore it because every mock I've done on the channel, I've had Olu go before Alt. And there's a world, there's a more than 0% chance that the order those tackles come off the board is the other way around. I don't think Ron Rivera is going to be the head coach next year, and I definitely don't think he's going to be the director of player personnel. They're probably going to have a new GM there in Washington as well. But if, maybe I'm wrong on all that. Who's to say I'm not? But if I'm wrong on all that, I could see a world where they're like, hey, Olu's a great player. We think Alt's just as awesome, but he can do a little bit more for us in the run game. And, I think I have Alt just a little ahead of Olu just because I think he's a little more balanced. He can do more for you in the run game while still being a stalwart in pass protection, while Olu obviously is a slightly better pass protector, but haven't really seen it in the run game. And there are still some matchups that give Olu fits. I mean, GT Tuamelo, perfect example. So I'm going to go with Alt here, but not because I don't think both should go in the top 10. I definitely think that they do, and they should. I just want to play with the order just for the sake of, doing something a little different here. And, Chicago would have been a worthy spot for Olu to then come off the board, but I like Braxton Jones. I think he's a solid player. So instead, I'm actually going to have the Tennessee Titans come up. And look, the Andre Dillard signing has been bad, to say the least. And I am using Draft Tech for these trades. So this was about right, a 4th and a future 3rd. Could have made it a 2nd rounder this year, but 2 picks instead of just getting one more. I could see a world where Chicago's like, hey, I'll take the 3rd this year plus your, or a 4th this year plus your 3rd next year. I could also see a world where they're saying, hey, give me the 2nd round of this year. A lot of different ways of being able to get to that perfect, match of draft value. But here the Titans move up, and Olu Fashanu, like I said, the Andre Dillard experiment has not been good. They benched him multiple times, trying to start Jalen Duncan. That hasn't worked. This team's got to get it figured out at offensive tackle. And maybe Peter Skoronski is one of those answers, but he's been an awesome guard. And I think if you add Olu there to left tackle, maybe you could flip Dillard to right tackle, see what that's about. Also, you could explore the free agent market. Or maybe you're double dipping at tackle in this year's draft. But long story short, tackle's been a major issue. And like I said, I think Olu's the best pass protector in this class. So this would be an awesome win. Final note on these tackles, I could also see a world where Alt's their preferred guy because again, he's a better run blocker. We've seen it for multiple years in Notre Dame. He's got the edge in Olu's run blocking technique and basically what the productions we've seen so far. So I could see a world where that wide zone scheme in Tennessee they prefer an Alt, but here with Alt off the board makes it easy. Let's go ahead and get Olu be that blindside protector for Will Levis at pick number 6. I mean, I think the guy I have going here is actually a really interesting fit with the Jets, but instead I'm gonna have the Jets trade back and I think you've seen some mocks with the Chargers taking a Brock Bowers. I am going to ultimately go in a different direction, 3rd and a 4th. Like I said, there's multiple ways to be able to get the points to kind of add up. Could be a 2nd, just could be a 3rd and a 4th. But I'm the Chargers take Malik Neighbors. Like, no one's talking about receiver. I've seen some mocks with Brock Bowers, but look, I mean, Keenan Allen's only getting older. They've already really hamstrung themselves against the cap with how they've continued to kind of move money forward. Might be time to move on from Allen. And Mike Williams can't stay healthy. And, to this point, it's 1 year in, but Quentin Johnston does not look like a first rounder. So why not go get wide receiver 2 in this class? A smooth separator, an explosive athlete who can generate those big plays. Could kind of be that insurance, play just in case, QJ doesn't ever figure it out. But also could be the focal point of the offense depending on what happens with Keenan Allen. So love this fit. You move up 6 spots. Yeah, you get rid of 2 picks. But man, wide receiver is still a massive need. Like Quentin Johnston didn't fix it. So, why stop there? I also think Bowers could be an interesting add too. Don't get me wrong there. But ultimately, let me go with Neighbors here. Then we get to the Giants here at 7. And I'm really excited for the mock. I have for both New England and the Giants. And I won't spoil too much just yet, but it's going to be quarterback, receiver for both those sides. So the Giants here, let's go Jaden Daniels. I mean, I said on the Hurry Up offense earlier this week, I think Jaden Daniels should have been a Heisman. I mean, the year he's had at LSU is insane. I'm probably not going to have a top 10 grade on him. I'm not probably going to put a stamp on that. I still worry about what that arm looks like at the NFL level. And ultimately the processing too. Like we see guys, Josh Dobbs is a perfect example. I'm not saying Jaden Daniels is going to be, Josh Dobbs. He definitely could be better. But when you have guys who are 2 reads and then, rely on their legs, that can be a little tough at the next level. So I'm not entirely sure that's going to be Jaden Daniels. And he also strikes me as a guy that, this is, strictly speculation, but if I had the chance to interview him, like at the Combine, I bet he'd sell me, right? Like I could totally see a world where he dominates in those kind of one-on-one scenarios. And that elevates his stock even more. But look, the tape this year is awesome. He does have 2 potential first-round wide receivers on that offense as well, so that certainly buoys the level of play that you can expect. But true dynamic athlete, and I mean, at the worst, Daniel Jones is like, a decent like kind of floor for where Jaden Daniels should go, if not maybe giving you a little bit more. So like I said, we're going to come back to offense a little bit later on with the Giants, and I think it's a really fun connection that I'm ultimately going to reunite. Won't spoil too much more than that. But Giants got to look to quarterback in the future, and Jaden Daniels, man, he's getting a lot of buzz. I think he should win the Heisman. Wouldn't shock me if he goes top 10. I just don't know if I'm fully there just yet, but big time of the year for, draft regrades and evaluations and looking at the entire season's film and seeing who got better, who got worse, all that stuff. Anyways, on the Chicago Bears, I'm going to go Jared Verse. I mean, down the stretch, people saw who Jared Verse, who I thought he was going to be. Last 6 games of the year, he had a pass rush win rate north of 25% in 5 of those 6 games. And, I mean, just an absolute monster. Can play with strength, enough explosiveness off the line of scrimmage. It feels like he's cut down just a little bit of weight. I felt like at the beginning of the year, he added 10 pounds of kind of unnecessary bulk, lost a little bit of explosiveness. Now it feels like he's kind of found that right weight. And, man, with how he ended the season, that was the Verse I expected to see all season long, and a guy I thought that should have been edge 1 and a top 10 pick. So now finally seeing him kind of flip that switch, turn it on to another level. I love the idea of him going top 10. And, man, Chicago needs edge still, even after Montez Sweat. They need interior help as well, even after drafting 2 guys in the middle rounds, last year. Verse plus Sweat, maybe a year or 2 bump from Dexter and Pickens. Okay, now we're talking about a foundation being laid across the defensive line. Even if they go, edge round 1, wouldn't shock me if they still go IDL later on in the draft. To the New Orleans Saints, this is a spot where I'm going to have Brock Bowers come off the board. And not that Juwan Johnson's bad. I don't think so whatsoever. 7 touchdowns last year. I think he still only got the 1 this year. I just think Bowers is a little bit more dynamic. He could also just play the slot. Like if you really like Juwan Johnson, Brock Bowers just could be your slot receiver. And then you have Olave and Rashid Shaheed on the outside. Also, I wanted to do this because kind of like what I talked about earlier on with the Chargers moving up and getting Neighbors. You could go Bowers in that spot. Sure, like I don't hate that. It's an upgrade over Gerald Everett. But I've gone a lot of receiver mock selections here for the Saints. So I wanted to change it, give them a different pass catcher. And maybe we can kind of go back to the heyday of the quarterback tight end connection kind of leading the way in that Saints offense. But ultimately, it's just finding Chris Olave help with Michael Thomas soon to hit the market. So love the idea here. And here they get to stick and pick. They don't have to trade up, kind of going against the Mickey Loomis way. And one of the best players in the draft falls into your lap. A truly blue chip player, the best tight end I've ever scouted, falls in your lap at 9. I don't know how you can be disappointed with that. All right, then on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I would, if we're going my board, Latu would be the pick, but I want to mix it up. Let's go Dallas Turner. A lot of people are really excited about him, and dude, he's a super explosive and a dynamic athlete. He's added a little bit of inside counters to his tape. He's added a little bit of strength, so now he's got more of that, kind of power in his profile. So he's definitely taken steps in the right direction, and things I wanted to see him add to his game this year, he's added. So I think, first half of the first round, I'm totally here for that hype. And, Shaq Barrett's just not who he was a few years ago, and they need a running mate with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, and I think explosive guy on one end, Dallas Turner, another souped-up athlete on the other end with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. That's a nice tandem that maybe gets this Bucs team back to 2019. That edge tandem when they won the Super Bowl was playing dynamite that year, and they need to try to find a way to get back to that. It'll certainly help out some of the secondary concerns they've had this year as well. To the Raiders, let's talk about Bo Nix. I haven't had him in a whole lot of my first-round mocks just because I'm not there. I think a 72% completion percentage is inflated heavily by a screen-heavy offense. But that being said, he has changed systems from Auburn to Oregon, and they really couldn't have been much more further apart. So it was a big learning curve there. And also, he's just taking on the mantle of being the leader, being the face of that Oregon franchise. And his time to throw over the course of his college career has gone in the right direction. I think he's got enough arm strength to be able to be a guy who challenges over the top and down the field at the NFL level. He is a very accurate passer, even if I think that offense inflates that completion percentage. He's still a very generally accurate quarterback, especially inside 20 yards. So I think there's a lot of things to like. I just see more as a second rounder than a first rounder. That being said, the Raiders have got to find a guy moving forward, and I can just see a world. We'll see what ends up happening with the head coaching hiring. Is it Antonio Pierce? Is it someone else? Who's the OC? All that stuff. But if this team's just looking for kind of Jimmy Garoppolo, be the point man, but a little bit better, a little bit younger and cheaper, I can see where Bo Nix is their guy. So, but we'll find out more because as draft season continues, we start to get an idea of the Raiders are looking at this in specific. That's what they're kind of keying in on. Some of it's smoke, some of it's real. So we'll have to wait and see, and that's kind of the joy of draft season. To the Jets then here at 12. Could have gone offensive tackle at 6, and honestly, the guy I'm going to give him, if you took him at 6, I think it's a little rich for my blood, but I could see a world where the NFL is convinced that he's that good. But J.C. Latham here at 12, I can't pass him this. And ultimately, I think right now, it's coming down to him and Talise Fuaga for my OT3. I like them both a lot. They're just going to do it in different ways. I think Latham's a little bit more athletically gifted. I also want to say, I think the Jets would prefer probably a left tackle. And then you could have AVT, Mekhi Becton kind of battled out for that right tackle spot. But with the top two guys off the board, right tackle's heavy here with Fuaga, Mims, and Latham all on the board. You could go Sua Mata'ia. I like him a lot, but I don't see him going in the top 12. So let's go Latham. Let's say Mekhi Becton's going to stick at left tackle. And let's say in a perfect world, AVT is just going to be an awesome guard with the flexibility to play tackle if push comes to shove. There's also a world where Latham maybe flips over to play left tackle. So a lot of different possibilities you could explore here. But either way, the Jets need an offensive tackle big time. And again, AVT could be a good right tackle, but I really prefer to keep him at guard, to keep that interior playing at a high level, because that's been a problem spot this year as well for the Jets. So I think I like the add of Latham, but you're relying on Becton to stay healthy, which can be a fool's errand sometimes. Then we get to the Denver Broncos. A mock selection I'm surprised I haven't made yet, but Johnny Newton to the Broncos makes a ton of sense. Look, I know they added Zach Allen, and he's a fine, serviceable player, but I feel like they've been missing some of that interior pass rush juice that they lost with Draymond Jones. So adding a little bit of that would certainly go a long way. You need 2-3 techs anyways, so you would have it Zach Allen and Johnny Newton. I like that a ton. Johnny Newton already a really polished run defender, so explosive out of his stance, plus the ability to use his hands at a high level makes him an instant impact pass rusher as well. So I think he's a guy that hit the ground running in Denver. Pair him up with Zach Allen, really nice. And, I think the edge group's coming along. I think Nick Benito's shown me enough. I think Jonathan Cooper's a solid player. Barrett Browning's still showing some flashes. So you could have gone edge here, but instead I'm going to change and move my attention to the interior. Then to the Buffalo Bills. I think this is a sprint to Cardin situation. I've been high on Rome Odunze all year long, and it feels like as the year's gone on, everyone else is kind of, I don't want to say caught up, but they're at a spot now where it's like, dude, Marvin Harrison Jr. absolutely should go somewhere in the top 5. and I think most people are there with Neighbors to top 5, top 10. I think Rome Odunze is starting to now get kind of public perception and public love, maybe, to be a top 10 pick. So you get him here at 14. This is just an absolute steal. You move on from Gabe Davis, and I think you get a receiver who can just do more in your offense, be a more dynamic route runner, win in different areas of the field, while still keeping a guy who can win with physicality, win with size deep down the field too. So I think you get what you have with Gabe Davis, but then add so much more. And we've already started to see that offense trying to attack different areas of the field, do more underneath, take some weight off the shoulder of Josh Allen. I think Rome Odunze makes that much easier. Then we get to the Seattle Seahawks, and this is actually going to be a spot where I'm going to have the Seahawks trade. You know, John Schneider is a guy that loves to trade back, and I think this was a spot where I think it made sense for Minnesota. Now, let me be clear. This is going to be another guy that I don't totally love him going round 1 or anything like that. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and change the pick. Not that it totally matters here with Seattle, but I do think it was the first and then the second third round pick that I had in my notes. Anyways, doesn't really matter for today's video. We're not doing third rounders just yet. That'll be coming around the corner though. I'm going to have JJ McCarthy going first round. I don't know if he declares. There's reason to believe he might go back to school and try to become maybe the face of Michigan next year and be the reason they win games as opposed to like 2 awesome backs, a really good offensive line, NFL caliber talent across that defense at all 3 levels, you know. And that being said, I could also see a world where he's like, I'm young, and the younger I am, teams are going to perceive me to have more upside. I have a rocket for an arm and enough mobility to where I'm probably going to go in the first round anyways. So instead of maybe being a top 5 pick, if he's willing to settle for middle of the first round, somewhere there in the 20s, and just have a team bank on his upside, I could see, especially in a class that features, you know, some older QBs like Penix and Bo Nix, I could see where they're like, okay, well, McCarthy's got the youth that those other 2 guys don't. But also, I've thought about this multiple times, and I've talked about it in previous mocks. I could see a world where Kevin O'Connell, if they don't bring back Kirk Cousins, who knows? I don't even want to speculate because it's just such a gamble, and we don't know the timetable on that Achilles injury. But I could just see a world where Kevin O'Connell's looking at J.J. McCarthy and says, man, this guy has so many of the tools that Matt Stafford has, and Sean just won a Super Bowl. I won a Super Bowl as the OC for Matt Stafford in Los Angeles. So who's to say I can't get that out of J.J. McCarthy and have him be my Matt Stafford? I think that's like a 99th percentile outcome for J.J. McCarthy personally with where I'm at right now with him. But I could see an NFL team selling themselves on it. You move up 6 spots. It's not too lucrative. You give up your second round pick. Okay, not great, but you're willing to live with that if you can get a rookie contract quarterback and plus the 5th-year option with J.J. McCarthy here and then hope to buy into the arm talent. So not my preferred outcome for the Minnesota Vikings, but I think it's a realistic outcome considering quarterbacks go early and the Vikings are in a tough spot. They're in the middle of no man's land. Where are they going to go long term? I think McCarthy at least gives them an option. Let's get on to the Los Angeles Rams here at 16. This is Nate Wiggins. I mean, just fantastic ball skills. And honestly, if you were to ask me right now, I think he's my CB1. I'm not going to include Cooper DeJean in that because honestly, I'm probably going to add an extra defensive category just called slot. To me, it's a valuable enough position to have its own rankings. And that's just how, you know how much I'm really convinced that I think the slot is going to end up being the cornerstone to NFL defenses in about 5 years' times. So Nate Wiggins to me, CB1. I'm talking outside guys. Just fantastic ball skills. And I think part of the reason I see him as CB1, Kool-Aid McKinstry's just been solid, consistent. He's just so technically refined that he could have gotten better. Sorry for knocking over my camera there. He could definitely get better, but you know the athleticism, he's not going to gain that out of nowhere. Nate Wiggins is a guy that had the athletic upside, but year over year we've just seen him get a little bit better, a little bit better, and a little bit better while maintaining strengths like ball skills, like the athletic ability, and then like the play against UNC. I talked about this in my last mock. Him chasing down Amari and Hampton is just bananas, and that type of hustle. It shows on tape, and coaches love that stuff. Like, if he ends up being there with the Steelers pick, I would not be surprised if that play alone sways Mike Tomlin in his direction. But here, the Rams have just got to get an outside guy and got to get some talent there on the perimeter. And, man, adding Nate Wiggins with what Raheem Morris has done in this, defense over this year, you give him a talent like Nate Wiggins, let him play in a zone-heavy defense, man, I think that could be a really nice pairing there. Let me get to the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, Trey Hendrickson's really battled through a lot of injuries, and he's still a pretty productive player. But Sam Hubbard, more of a run defender. I know they used a first-rounder last year at edge, so maybe that's a little bit of the reason they're not going to go this way. But even with that said, Hendrickson's deal soon going to be up, and Hubbard's getting there in age. So even if this means it's going to be Latu and Miles Murphy in the future, I think it's about time to start looking in that direction. Or you just take a page out of the Eagles playbook and say, hey, we're going to have 4 edge rushers that are always fresh, deep rotation, and we're just going to always be able to win up front. And when you're the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow's healthy and you're winning games because your offense is awesome, that's not a bad problem to have. Like, having 4 edge rushers sounds like the perfect counter to what opposing offense are going to need to do against you. So either way you kind of draw this up, I could sell myself in an argument where I like this. Really, this comes down to, I think the guy who's most NFL ready right now at the edge spot falls in your lap at 17 for a team that could use an immediate impact edge rusher. So love this, but also they're the team that kind of has the freedom to where if injuries do come up, and that's going to be an issue for Laiatu Latu, well, they already have Trey Hendrickson. They can just re-sign him. They already have Miles Murphy they use a first-round pick on. They can maybe use Sam Hubbard for another year or two. Like, they have a back. They have an out if Laiatu Latu doesn't work, but they also have a great benefit to if he does end up working out. So then we get to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to be another trade spot here. And actually, these 2 teams played earlier this season. So kind of just adding salt into the wound. But I'm going to the Jacksonville Jaguars move up 3rd and a 4th. Kind of the same stuff I've been doing for most of these picks. Probably could have gotten away with just a 3rd there. But I'm going to the Jags move up. And is this going to turn into this year's Brian Branch of the Jags, my favorite fit of the entire NFL draft cycle? It damn well may be. Cooper DeJean, man. I just love the idea of him playing in the slot. Such a twitchy athlete with ideal size, willing tackler, hard hitter. I think his feet are a little heavy, so maybe slot can be a little tough there in regards to change of direction. He's a guy that once I see that 3 cone, I can make a decision on, is he playing safety, is he playing outside corner, or is he playing in the slot? Right now, I think he has just enough change of direction skills to be just an awesome coverage guy on the inside, take away those easy throws, match up against tight ends because he has enough size, enough arm length, and athleticism to kind of be able to go toe-to-toe with either tight ends or wide receiver. So I love this a ton. And that's the one spot where I think the Jags definitely could use an upgrade in that defense. And then, if he's not playing slot, I think he could definitely play safety, and they could certainly use a running mate there with Andre Sisco. So a couple different pathways for Cooper DeJean to get on the field, which I love this. You go up 8 spots, not too expensive there for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and get another dynamic player to that defense. Then to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to go Chop Robinson here. I still think this is a group that can get a little bit better on the edge. Pair him up with Arnold Ebiketie, hopefully as the edge tandem of the future. And Chop's another guy, kind of like Jared Verse. Over the course of the season, he got better and better. We saw he's a really good run defender and such an explosive athlete. Like, you just buy into those guys. So when a twitched up guy comes your way at 19 in a position of need, the value lines up, the need lines up. It's just one you can't pass on. So let's go ahead and I think that Falcons defense is taking a huge step up. A lot of that's Jesse Bates. They still need to get better on the edge. So let's go ahead and try to find an answer there with Chop Robinson. To the Green Bay Packers, want to do something a little different here. Cam Kitchens makes all the sense in the world. To me, I think he's my safety 1. We'll talk about him in the 2nd round. I'm going to go Tyler Nubin. Honestly, when you look at PFF grades and just like overall consistency, even just watching the film, I think Nubin's been a little bit more stable and consistent. But kind of teasing a little bit what I'm going to say about Kitchens when we get to the 2nd round is I think he's been trying to do a little too much. And because of that, he's put himself into bad spots and given up some big plays because he's just trying to kind of be the hero on the back end of that Miami defense. Nubin hasn't really tried to do that, and he's been a great, last line of defense. He's a good tackler when the ball comes his way, while also being an awesome center field player. And this is going to be a very secondary focused draft here for the Packers. I think they've been able to do a lot without Jair Alexander in the lineup, which makes me really excited to see what that defense looks like with Jair in it. But I also think, man, you get an upgraded safety and then one more corner in the mix, hopefully to play slot, which we'll get to in the 2nd round. This could easily be one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL, assuming Rashawn Gary's health and Kenny Clark's and, Devondre Campbell, et cetera, all those guys being healthy, plus these picks working out. Man, it could be a really special unit. So that's going to be kind of my focus here for the Green Bay Packers. Then we get to the Seattle Seahawks, and we're going to have our first interior offensive lineman come off the board. It's going to be Troy Fontenot. Yes, he plays tackle right now for Washington, but if you watch that Washington-Oregon game, you saw him leading the way in the run game, especially in the red zone. He's going to make a lot of teams really excited about what his prospects could be as an interior offensive lineman. He's going to play guard at the next level. He's an awesome tackle at college, but arm length's going to keep him from playing that position at the NFL level. He'll kick inside, play left guard, and that's a spot where the Seahawks have just got to get better. Specifically from a pass protection standpoint, I think Fontenot gives you a huge upgrade there. And pass pro, while also having great movement skills to be able to fit into that zone blocking scheme and lead the way for a Kenneth Murray, for a Zach Charbonnet. So I think the fit here makes all the sense in the world. Plus, Washington guy going to Seattle, who can't get excited about that? To the Arizona Cardinals, Kool-Aid McKinstry. And you'll notice, over the last couple mocks, secondary players are coming off the board a little bit later than maybe my first few mocks. I think this is a good secondary group, but I don't think it's like elite, so I'm not entirely sure we're going to have like 2 to 3 guys go in the top 10. I think more of these names are going to fly off the board in the mid-teens, to the 20s. I think that's when these guys come off the board. And for Arizona, it's like, who's that guy on the outside for the long term? Like if let's say the Cardinals in 5 years are one of the, front to the top of the playoff picture in the NFC. Let's just say there's somewhere that they're there in 5 years. somewhere in that mix. Who's that guy on that secondary that you're like, other than Budda Baker and Thompson, other than safeties, that you're like, yeah, that's a dude. That's a guy. Like, I could totally see he's anchoring that, cornerback room. They don't have that dude right now. And I think adding the length and just the technique and the polish and the high floor that Kool-Aid McKinstry brings to the table gives you an immediate upgrade while also giving you a guy that may be that dude, maybe the face of that cornerback room moving forward. I'm really interested to see what that 40 looks like. Does he have that makeup speed to last the NFL level? Because otherwise, his stock may fall a little bit more. But right now, I like him a lot in the teens to early 20s, and I think the Cardinals just get a really nice plug-and-play starter to fall in their lap at 22. So then we get to the Indianapolis Colts. I'm actually going to stay at the cornerback position and go Quinyon Mitchell. I think pairing him up with Juju Brents gives you a ton of size, ton of length, and Brents does it with that size plus change of direction skills. Loved his 3-cone. He was one of the biggest winners of the Combine for me last year because I just didn't, I could see it some on tape, but I didn't think it would be that good, his 3-cone. So change of direction with that size, and then Quinyon Mitchell gives you the strength, the power profile, the guy that can match up with the DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, more that physical corner archetype while still giving you great size and arm length. Okay, that's a cornerback tandem that really excites me because you have the size, but also differing skill sets to be able to match up with different types of receivers. And basically, you just always have an answer for whatever offense you see in a given week. So I love that. And I think Quinyon Mitchell, rightfully so, getting a lot of first-round hype right now. So I like the fit there, and I like the value there at 23. Two more first-round trades. Here is the first of those last two. I'm going to have the Houston Texans trading back with the Detroit Lions. That being said, the player I'm going to have the Lions select here also would make for a really great addition in Houston. So, take it for what it's worth. It's going to be a third-round pick number 92. I'm going to have the Detroit Lions select T'Vondre Sweat. He just won the award for Best Interior Defensive Lineman in college football, and he is a fantastic run defender while also giving you plenty of pass rush juice. Like, he is a solid pass rush upside player. And I think in a perfect world, he's your nose tackle of the future. Ali McNeil is moving to the 3-tech, and you're just getting one beefy guy to help turn around or improve that run defense even more. It's already had a huge turnaround this season. Sweat makes it that much better of a run defense. But then also with that pass rush upside, McNeil moving to the 3-tech, hopefully James Houston comes back healthy and he's the other guy opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Otherwise, I think edge is another position worth exploring in the later rounds, mid rounds, maybe even in the first round, that you could add in the mix. But here, just with this pathway, Sweat, McNeil, 3-tech, Hutchinson, hopefully you find another edge somewhere this season or maybe in free agency. That's an awesome pass rush group. So love the addition of T'Vondre Sweat. And honestly, I think right now 2 interior defensive linemen should go in the first round. And it's Sweat at number 2. And of course, you got to talk about Johnny Newton, who I had to go at 13. I think those two guys, rightfully so, right now, the guys that deserve to get the first round hype that they're getting. To the Kansas City Chiefs at 25. I mean, this can't get much more sprint the card in, right? Like I said it with the Bills, but even more so with the Chiefs. Big body, athletic freak, who might be the best contested catch, spectacular catch, go win in the air receiver in this class. Does that not sound like exactly the dude the Chiefs are missing right now? Plus, I think there's enough route running ability. Really, it's just his explosiveness. I'm not saying he's like a totally polished route runner, but when he plants his foot and breaks out of his route to make that 10-yard in break, like he creates separation just because the dude's a twitchy athlete, former Michigan State basketball player, right? Like it all makes sense. So there's some refinement that needs to be done there for sure. But again, he's fantastic in the air, a great tracker of the football, and just a rare athlete to have fall into your lap at 25. That does not come often. So here he falls a little bit, and the Chiefs really are the beneficiaries. There's totally a world where I do another mock just like this, but I have the Chiefs move up to like 17 or something like that, just because Keon Coleman lasted 25. I don't know how likely that necessarily is, but here it's the perfect world for the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're actually going to stay at offense once we get to their second round pick as well. To the Pittsburgh Steelers, they traded back. I'm going to go to Lise Fuaga. Fuaga may not be the perfect fit for a zone blocking scheme. I think he's quick out of his stance, and I think that athleticism maybe gives him the shot to be able to fit in a zone blocking scheme like Pittsburgh. The change of direction can be a little rough. Like if he's trying to redirect his body and find a linebacker, get to the second level, find a safety, and he doesn't take the right route, it can be a little tough. He doesn't always get there then. That's really the one knock I have against his game. And, when it comes to him and Latham, I think Latham probably has the higher ceiling, but I think Fuaga's got the higher floor, pretty comfortably higher floor. So that's where I'm having a hard time with those two guys. Who should be my OT3, the high floor or the high ceiling guy? I typically lean towards the high ceiling guy, so it'll probably end up being Latham. But Fuaga, it's another first-round pick used on an offensive tackle, I understand. But Broderick Jones, we've seen some flashes. We see the upside that's there, and we can understand why Pittsburgh made that move, right? Like, I think everyone understood that was a pick that made a ton of sense. And I think the same is true because, look, Chukwuma Okorafor is not good. So try to get an upgrade there with Talise Fuaga. Played a lot of college football. Been one of the best offensive linemen in college football this year. And I think a plug-and-play guy there on the right side. Let's continue to try to turn this offensive line around. It'll make Kenny Pickett that much better. It'll make Jalen Warren and Najee Harris that much better as well. To the Dallas Cowboys at 27. Patrick Paul, to me, again, more of a second-round guy, but I understand the first-round love that he gets. And I just think this is a spot where the Cowboys probably look at themselves in the mirror and say, we're contenders. We could go get a project like a Kingsley Suamataia, who I would love. Given the work they've done with Tyler Smith, Suamataia, I would die at this selection and that fit. But I could see a world where they're like, Tyron Smith's been one of the best left tackles in football when he's healthy. We need a guy who can plug in and play right away because Smith's a free agent, and I don't really see a world where he's going back to Dallas, just given the price tag and the injury history. So Patrick Paul could be their guy, right? You keep him in state, that's always fun too. And then you're just getting a guy who's massive, pterodactyl wings for arms, and has a ton of great pass blocking sets on tape. Just a plug-and-play guy. And then you keep Tyler Smith there at left guard. I could see a world where they opt for the high floor versus the high ceiling. Kind of the same argument we talk about Latham and Fuaga. I think the same could be true about Paul versus Suamataia. I'd go Suamataia, but I could see a world where Dallas is saying, hey, we're contenders. Let's just keep a strength of strength. Let's get the NFL-ready guy in Patrick Paul. Now we get back to the Houston Texans after they move back. I had somebody comment this in my last mock, and I actually really liked the fit. Emeka Egbuka. Why not reunite him with CJ Stroud? I like that a ton. And this could basically just be a Robert Woods upgrade. And I mean that both from a cap standpoint, a youth standpoint, and on-field standpoint. Like, I could just see him being a better Robert Woods to where he's at in his career. And you throw him in the mix with Tank Dell and Nico Collins going into a contract year. Hopefully they re-sign him. But, Dell, Egbuka, and Nico, I think that's a really solid wide receiver trio for a good offensive coordinator in Bobby Slowick and a quarterback who's playing as well as anybody across the league right now in CJ Stroud. And plus college teammates. The chemistry is already built in there. I think that's a really exciting fit. So shout out to, can't remember the name, who commented that last week. I think that's going to be a pick that you see a lot from me moving throughout the rest of the draft cycle. To the San Francisco 49ers, I'm going to go ahead and warn you now. I'm going to double up an interior offensive lineman. Here we're going to draft Graham Barton. Aaron Banks has never made sense for me to be a starting offensive lineman for San Francisco. He is a man-blocking offensive lineman. And honestly, whenever he gets off his rookie contract and he hits free agent market, if he goes to a team that's a man blocking scheme, I think Aaron Banks can be a good football player. I think he's going to turn his career around. I seriously do. He never made sense as a fit to me in San Francisco. Graham Barton definitely does. He's been a little banged up this year at left tackle for Duke, and maybe the play's taken a step back. But go through on the 2022-23 tape. He's fantastic. And I think moving him inside to guard, same thing we talked about with Fontenot. Arm length's the only reason he's not playing left tackle at the next level. Move him inside to guard. Movement skills are there to fit that zone blocking scheme. Awesome pass protector, which is only going to make Purdy that much better. It's an absolute slam dunk and an instant upgrade. As big an upgrade as the 49ers can make with how good that roster is adding Graham Barton to play left guard. To the Baltimore Ravens, Denzel Burke's another guy I'm really excited to watch. Especially, I want to watch his film last year and then watch the film this year and just see how much better he's gotten. I want to see that side by side because man, oh man, watching it just on Saturdays, he looked so much better. He just looked more confident, right? Had the athleticism, had the body type, had the arm length. It just felt like he was playing a little hesitant, a little unsure of himself. But now it's just this guy, I don't know what happened in the offseason, who talked to him, who told him what, but the guy feels like, yeah, I'm the best corner in the Big Ten. I'm the dude. I'm the guy. And man, that type of swagger and confidence exudes when you watch the film and when you just watch the game. And man, I think his play's taken a huge step forward this year, and he's gone through some tough matchups there in the Big Ten too. So love the idea of Baltimore adding one more guy to that secondary. Marlon Humphrey's getting older, and they don't really have a number 2 guy right now anyways, so they need to be investing in that corner spot pretty heavily, both in free agency and in the NFL draft. Then we get to the Miami Dolphins. This is going to be my last trade of the video. I do apologize. I think this is now back-to-back mocks where I haven't had any second-round trades. I think basically after all the shakeups that I get through in the first round, I just get to a spot where I'm comfortable with the draft order, and I like the moves I've made, and I stop thinking about trades. So I do apologize for that, but sometimes it's hard to tell who's going to really be moving up in the second round. Once we get through the combine and I know who are those guys that should be the first dudes taken off the board in the second round, I'll probably get more trades in there. Let's get off that tangent. Los Angeles Rams, Michael Penix Jr. Look, Matt Stafford can't play forever. He's already missed time this year. Maybe there's a chance he plays one more year. Maybe there's a chance he hangs it up. We don't know. We got to get through free agency. We got to get through all these retirements because then we'll have an idea. But this should be Matt Stafford's last year. Maybe he tacks on one more. Maybe he plays next year. Maybe. But there's also rumors about him being gone anyways. He could be a trade candidate for the Rams. Who knows? So God, Sean McVay has been on a heater when it comes to calling games. And I just love what he's done from an offensive standpoint and what he's done with those receivers and what he's done with Matt Stafford kind of having one of the best years of his career despite being his age. I think a lot of credit got to go to McVay. So then you give him maybe the best deep ball passer in this class. And I say that acknowledging Drake May and Caleb Williams. Like, Penix's deep ball placement is bananas. And a guy who can play within timing in an offense. Like, that's exactly what he's doing for the most part in Washington. He's elusive enough to escape out of the pocket, avoid oncoming pressure. And he's got enough mobility to be a little bit of a runner, about as much as Matt Stafford is right now. Like, man, I think this gives you exactly what you have now with Matt Stafford and just lets you do it for the next 10 years. While, again, getting such an accurate player and he's familiar with the West Coast, not that that's the biggest deal, but, man, I think this would be a slam dunk fit. And, like, if there's a place Michael Penix can go, like, to me, Minnesota and the Rams with Kevin O'Connell and then the Rams make the most sense from a schematic standpoint, but also those two landing spots for, look, Michael Penix has maybe the best receiver room in the country right now, like with Polk and McMillan and, of course, Odunze. So I also like Minnesota and the Rams because he's stepping into an environment with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, or he's stepping into a world with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. Like, either way you spin it, those to me are the best landing spots for Michael Penix. And right now he's my QB3, so I'm rooting for the kid really, really hard. Anyways, let's move on now. I got to pick up the pace. Philadelphia Eagles at 32. I mean, this one just falls into their lap. Amarius Mims. A lot of times I've been going Tyler Guyton, but I think Mims is just kind of that, maybe a little bit more upside. He's also a little bit more raw. Guyton's played a whole lot of college football. Mims missed time this year with an injury. So, either way you spin it, I like both those guys as the potential right tackle of the future. Decided to go Mims this time. One, to change it up. Two, because the traits are awesome. And Philadelphia is just such a great player development landing spot. So if there's a place that Mims could go and maybe become the best version of himself, Philadelphia is definitely at the top of the list. To the Carolina Panthers, A.D. Mitchell is going to be the pick here. And I say that with the idea that I think the Panthers are going to throw a bag at T. Higgins. If not Higgins, some wide receiver out there is going to get paid by Carolina because Dave Tepper is like, dude, look, like, Bryce Young needs help. It ain't cutting the guys we got. And look, Adam Thielen's become the ghost of Adam Thielen again. Jonathan Mingo's like actively working to get his feet out of bounds in that viral clip from Mike Renner from a few weeks ago. Like, what, that play makes no sense. So I think they're going to throw a bag at T. Higgins, and I think they're willing to go receiver at the top of the second round. So speed element with A.D. Mitchell plus his size, whoever they sign in free agency. Okay, now we're giving Bryce Young a true opportunity to have some success. Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to go Leonard Taylor here. First round talent, has the size, the arm length, the athleticism, checks all those boxes. Just needs to be developed as a actual pass rusher, and with his technique and his hands and all that sort of stuff. And I think Jonathan Gannon's had guys play above their expectations. So get a toolsy, traitsy, first round talent type of player who just needs some development. I'd love to see him end up in Arizona, where they can definitely use an upgrade on the inside. All right, I told y'all, this Giants and Patriots draft I think is awesome. The New England Patriots, Xavier Legette. I mean, Pats fans, you tell me you come away with this draft with my quarterback one and a guy who could be your receiver one of the future, you've got to be over the moon at the potential possibilities here. So Xavier Legette, guy who can win with physicality. He's also good after the catch, ideal size. I think he'll be a pretty good tester at the combine. It may not steal the show, but I think he'll test admirably there and kind of check those boxes as well. So love the addition there. And of course, like, if you've been watching New England this year, the two spots they have got to get an upgrade at some point this offseason are quarterback and receiver, and you're welcome. I've done it both in your first two picks. To the Washington Commanders at 36, I'm going to go Edgerrin Cooper here. He really does make me think a lot about Tremaine Edmonds with his just arm length, athleticism, and overall size. He's a little raw, which may concern the Commanders because they're like, oh, Jamin Davis was a little raw. And ultimately, Davis feels like he's making more splash plays the more I watch him. I don't know. Like, maybe he's actually turning a corner a little bit. But either way you spin it, whether you're keeping Davis around or not, Edgerrin Cooper, a guy to be that other off-ball linebacker or just to be a Jamin Davis upgrade, that's the one spot of the defense that I think, other than edge, which we're going to go to here in just a moment, they've got to assess now. But edge has become a more recent need. I think linebacker for basically the last two off seasons is a spot where they've been hoping Davis takes that leap. Hasn't happened yet, and because of that, it remained a problem spot. To the Green Bay Packers at 37, we did not go off tackle in the first round, and I mean, God, as someone who loves Kingsley Suamataia and the upside that's there with a guy that big who can move that well and has the mirroring ability and the footwork that he has, I love the idea of him going to Green Bay. Another one of these, destinations that's been a great player development factory. Look at the work they did with Rashawn Gary and among others. Eric Stokes, another guy I didn't think would be as good at the NFL level, and they've been able to make it work. And even like with some time, Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, like guys that have been able to take a step forward. And then to go from David Bakhtiari, best left tackle in the NFL for a decade or so, and then get a guy with all the traits to do basically the same thing in Kingsley Suamataia. I'd be really interested if they took a swing of the bat here and added him to be that left tackle of the future. I think Zach Tom's a really solid right tackle. I think this is the upgrade that you need over Rasheed Walker right now. To the Giants, here we go. Let's have some fun. I'm actually going to go receiver with the next pick. I got my order a little backwards. Let's go Tyler Guyton. There's some offensive line needy teams up ahead that I think maybe could steal Guyton from you. So you draft Tyler Guyton, multi-year starter at right tackle at Oklahoma. Love the explosiveness out of his stance. Big guy, mauler in the run game, ton of physicality, plenty to spare. And this allows you to move Evan Neal inside to play guard. Maybe they'll ship him too. I could see where maybe they're willing to accept a third if they get one for Evan Neal. Probably not. Maybe it's a fourth. I could see a world where it's a fourth and maybe it's the Giants giving up Neal and a sixth. Like I could even see it just being a pick swap by a couple rounds. But if they decide to keep him, I think Evan Neal will be an awesome upgrade at left guard. So in my perfect world here, Guyton's your right tackle of the future. Evan Neal's going to be your left guard of the future, and you're not wasting that first round pick and exchanging it for a fourth or something like that. So love this, and I love the value here. Guyton easily could be a first rounder. He's been in the first round of my last few mocks, but here he falls to 38. To the Tennessee Titans at 39. I think Treylon Burks has some field stretching ability, but let's go ahead and add Xavier Worthy. If you've been watching the Titans this year, if you're a Tennessee fan, you know Will Levis has arm talent for days. That man has a howitzer for an arm. So while Burks can be a little bit of your field stretcher, I'm kind of intrigued with the world of Kyle Phillips is your slot underneath, kind of easy stuff guy, safety blanket. Chig Okonkwo does some of the same stuff, being athletic enough to stretch the field a little bit. Treylon Burks is your yards after the catch guy. You're scheming up a lot of easy throws to him, using him as an extension of the run game, using one end arounds, jet sweeps, all that stuff, and using his physicality to win over the middle of the field. And then Xavier Worthy, who might be the fastest receiver in this draft class, is your field stretcher. And he's opening up the middle of the field for a Treylon Burks, for a Chig Okonkwo, for a Tajay Spears as a receiving back. Like this, I think, is Burks can be that field stretcher. I think Xavier Worthy is really the guy that lets everything else kind of fall into the right piece. Now that is assuming that Xavier Worthy is good and he's not Quentin Johnston, basically. So a little bit of a projection for sure. But I've been really pleased with what I've seen out of him at Texas. I think A.D. Mitchell is the better receiver from UT, but man, that long speed, you can't hide it. You can't hide it. So love that addition there to Tennessee. Then we get back to Washington. This is where I'm going to go to the edge position. And obviously it's become a massive need that's opened up after the trade deadline, moving on from Sweat, moving on from Young. And I could just see a world where they're like, hey, Jonah Ellis is a little undersized, but dude, he's so polished when it comes to his pass rush moves and a very good explosive athlete, out of his stance. So they're just saying, hey, he's 240 pounds, but he gets the quarterback, so what do we care? And right now, we needed a guy who can do that. So considering how thin they are at that position, I think this is probably you draft one, you sign one type of approach this offseason for Washington. And I like the value of Ellis, a really highly productive player at the college level, falling to you at 40. I think it's worth the swing of the bat. Then we get to 41. I'm going to have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, who knows what happens with Mike Evans this year? I believe this is the last year of his contract. Already a lot of trade rumors surrounding him as well. I mean, I know a lot of people who comp Johnny Wilson to Mike Evans. I don't hate it. Johnny Wilson's stock's fallen a little bit, and there's some people who think he could even play tight end. I'm sticking him playing receiver, and let's just have him be a potential Mike Evans replacement. He moves really well for his size, 6'7", close to 240 pounds, probably that 235 mark once we get to the combine. Good ball tracking skills, especially deep down the field. Sometimes there's some lazy drops on there, especially over the middle. But I think working down the field, the guy's a great tracker of the football and a great deep threat because of that. So again, it kind of feels like a way of keeping Mike Evans around without actually keeping Mike Evans around, getting Young at the position, getting Chuba at the position, all that sort of fun stuff. Then we get to the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to go Kamari Lassiter. Everything I said about Denzel Burke is true here for Lassiter. He's really impressed me this year and just kind of feels like he's playing with more confidence and has become a bigger piece of the identity for that Georgia team this year than he ever could have been the last 2 years just because that front seven was so good. So I think the job got harder for him and he got better, which is really, really impressive. So love the idea of him being a top 50 pick. The Raiders have got to get better on the outside. They're still looking for answers. They're signing Marcus Peters. They're waiving him in the middle of the season. It's a little bit of a mess assessing that position right now for Vegas long term. So let's go ahead and give him Kamari Lassiter. Back to the Chargers at 43. I'm going to stick at the corner spot. Go TJ Tampa. 6'2", north of 200 pounds. I don't know who's going to be the defensive play caller next year. I can almost assure you it's not going to be Brandon Staley. But whoever is calling plays, this is an upgrade pretty clearly over Michael Davis while giving you a similar type of body type, which maybe scares them off and maybe sends them in a direction where they're like, hey, we'll take Kalen King, we'll take Terrion Arnold. All that's fair too. But I like the length and the size and the physicality Tampa plays with. Also while posting close to an 80 PFF coverage grade. So the tape's there. Not necessarily playing the most he's not playing in the SEC. He doesn't have the gauntlet of some other Big Ten schedules, but he's had some opponents that have given some tests, and overall I think there's enough there to buy into him and being a second round pick and a pretty much impacts immediate starter here for the Chargers. I can't think of any other pathway where he's not seeing the field pretty much right away if this did play out. All right, let's get to the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a pick that I've mocked a ton. Braylon Trice. I've also thought about it, maybe with the Falcons, trading back out of the first round, top of the second, taking someone like a Braylon Trice. I think he'd be a nice compliment. A couple other teams, the Carolina Panthers, another one where I think he'd be a really good fit. But for the Eagles, this is just your Brandon Graham replacement. Guy who turns speed to power, is that power rusher. Brandon Graham can't play forever. Braylon Trice gives you that long-term replacement. So I keep mocking it because it makes way too much sense. It makes just too much sense for the Eagles not to do it. So he's going to be the pick here, again, going to Philly. To the Buffalo Bills, Cam Kinchens falls a little bit, and kind of as previously alluded to, there's some spots on tape where it's just like Kinchens put himself out of position there. Like he was trying to do too much. He was trying to be the hero, and that's a little weird considering I think James Williams maybe not living up to 5-star recruit status. Is still a really good player though. Like he's still a solid player. Like Kinchens doesn't have to do it all by himself because he's got a good running mate there on the back end. That being said, like, you watch that first quarter interception against Louisville and you're like, all right, yeah, sure, whatever, green light. It's like in baseball, there's certain base runners that you give the green light to, and you like anytime you want to steal, you got it. And it's like Cam Kinchens, like there's some points in the game where it's like, you know what, if you think you can make a play on the ball, go for it, dude. Like, go make it happen. But because of that, again, he kind of puts himself out of position where Newbin doesn't try to do too much. So I could see a world where some people sell themselves on Newbin being better than Kinchens. But to me, right now, I got Kinchens just ahead of Newbin. Like those guys both a ton, so don't get me wrong. Like them both a lot. And here for the Bills, like Poyer, Hyde, getting up there in age. It's awesome to see Damar Hamlin, obviously playing football and just, being a part of the Bills organization still. But they need a clear-cut upgrade there, and I think Cam Kinchens gives them that. All right, now let's have some fun. New York Giants, Brian Thomas Jr. He's looked really good this year with Jane Daniels throwing the football, so why mess up that continuity? Why not have him go to the New York Giants? Look, just like the New England Patriots, what are the two spots if you're watching Giants games that you're like, they need to get better here? Quarterback and receiver. So perfect here, and again, like we talked about with some of the other mock draft selections earlier, built-in chemistry. I think that's something that teams are going to start to covet. I mean, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow is kind of the first example of that, but we've seen where that does add some instant value. So just keeping chemistry, as a part of the factor here. Jaden Daniels, throwing to Brian Thomas Jr. Love that idea, but you also get that big body physical receiver that they don't have right now, who can work the middle of the field, enough route running ability to win all three levels. I mean, to me, this is a slam dunk, and it's a really nice compliment too to Jalen Hyatt, another SEC receiver that they just drafted in the third round last year. To the Miami Dolphins at 47. If you've been watching mock drafts on my channel, you already know this was going to be the pick. JT Sanders. This is as close to a George Kittle type of tight end that I think Mike McDaniel's going to have the chance to draft. Awesome athlete, and right now I think Sanders has played more like a third round tight end, but he's going to crush the combine. He's going to become a second rounder, and again, movement skills. Also a really willing blocker and a pretty good one at that. And then plus the receiving upside. There's a lot of mouths to feed there at Texas, so I know the production wasn't great, but this guy's awesome. Like, this guy can definitely be a great receiving threat, and honestly, it kind of sucks from that standpoint because he'd be going to Miami and there's a lot of mouths to feed there too. But he would just be an immediate plug-and-play starter. He'd give them that George Kittle type, and that makes the Dolphins that much scarier to face because you're now saying, well, any given week, it could be Tyree, it could be Jalen Waddle, it could be Raheem Mostert, it could be JT Sanders. And that's exactly what we say week in and week out with San Francisco. So if Miami wants to kind of put themselves in that San Francisco echelon, oh, we got to worry about Devo. Oh, we got to worry about Ayuk. Oh, maybe it's CMC this week. Oh, maybe it's Kittle. Adding a tight end like JT Sanders makes too much sense to be able to match that from a San Francisco standpoint. Then we get to the Cincinnati Bengals at 48. I've talked about it a little bit last week. I think this is a guy that's going to steal the show at the Senior Bowl. Kirian Omega-G, so coming out of Yale, and one really smart player, multi-year starter, plenty of playing experience for Omega-G, and ideal size, good movement skills. Like, it has a lot of things that you want. Also, some experience playing guard, so that could even be an option for the Bengals if they do decide to go that way. But here, I'm just going to make the pick with the assumption that he'll move to right tackle and be the answer for that problem spot for Cincinnati. And again, I think he's a guy that he's already accepted a Senior Bowl invite. I think that's going to put him on the map. I think this is going to be one of these risers this year that before the Senior Bowl, nobody knows about him, and then afterwards, everyone's talking about him, and everyone seems to know who Kirian Omega-G is all of a sudden. So I'm kind of calling my shot here, and I think he's going to move himself into that top 50 consideration. I think he makes for a great fit in Cincinnati. Then we get to the New Orleans Saints at 49. This one I'm going to go JT Tuimoloau. They like their athletic guys, and 247, one of the highest touted recruits in their history is JTT. And, maybe not as explosive or fiery, like a Peyton Turner or anything like that, or Marcus Davenport when he came out of UTSA, but enough athleticism, good power, ideal size at 6'5", 275, and there are games where he becomes the best player on the field. It doesn't happen often, and the consistency is obviously a big part of the issue, but there are quarters and halves here and halves there that it's like Tuamelo cannot be stopped. So I'm intrigued by that. And plus, like, we've seen this Saints pass rush as the year's gone on kind of wither away. And I don't know if Peyton Turner is going to be a dude long term. Foskey's only going into his second year. They just extended Granderson, so who knows? But worst case scenario, by adding JTT, you have 4 legit edge rushers, and you can move some of those other guys around and play on the inside next to Brian Brzee. Like, you still have some flexibility there. So worst comes to worst, you're just adding one more guy who could be an impact pass rusher. That's never a bad idea. Then we get to the Steelers at 50. I'm going to go Terrion Arnold here with the idea that he'll play the slot. I think Pittsburgh definitely needs to get better, both the defending the inside and just in general at the slot position. Arnold's, right there with Kalen King, one of the shiftiest, movers in this, defensive class. When it comes to change of direction skills, those are the first 2 guys that immediately populate my mind. Love the play we've seen this year out of him at Alabama. And it kind of feels like when you watch these Bama corners, it feels like you're either a Kool-Aid guy or an Arnold guy. You either like the length and the technique, or you like the athleticism and the twitchiness that Arnold has. So I like both the guys. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a weird middle ground there. But would love the idea of him playing slot for Pittsburgh in the middle of that defense, where they definitely need an upgrade. They just need an upgrade in the secondary anywhere they can find it. So here I like the value with Arnold at 50. Similar thinking here. Kalen King, the Green Bay Packers. I think they need an upgrade there at slot. Rasul Douglas, an impending free agent. And I think Kalen King, with his movement skills, does a whole lot to cover the middle of the field. And again, I think that's where offense is going to start attacking. This has been a year won by defenses. And I think the NFL is going to assess, where can we get some easy stuff? Well, it's attacking the middle of the field, throw in between the hashes. It's way easier for a middle-of-the-road quarterback to do that than it is to attack the outside. So eventually the slot corner position is going to be the next defensive counter, where that becomes the emphasis. And it's been a down year for Kalen King, but I still think corner is a position where once you show me your upside, once I see your best play, like a Derek Stingley Jr., that freshman year, I was like, he showed me it once, he can get back there. It's a corner, it's a position that comes with so much variance. So I still believe in Kalen King as what I saw a year ago. He's had a lot of tough assignments this year, and ultimately maybe slot's better for him than playing on the outside. And maybe that's the adjustment that gets him back on track. And I think that could be the role he plays there in Green Bay. I think he'd be really damn good at it. To Seattle at 52, I'm going to go Chris Jenkins here. I've mocked this some. It's just an interior defensive line that can get better against the run, and that's exactly what you're getting with Chris Jenkins. While also, maybe there's some room for him to develop as a pass rusher. I'm not really banking that in. Honestly, I look at it and say, hey, he's the run defender. Draymond Jones is your pass rusher. To me, set in stone, done deal there. Been really pleased with Boye Mafe and how he's played this year, and that's kind of moved edge lower down my needs board when I assess Seattle. So instead, let's go with the interior defensive lineman and Chris Jenkins. To the Atlanta Falcons, look, I think Quinn Ewers is going to declare, but as I was doing this, I was like, oh shit, I kind of forgot about Quinn Ewers. I don't know what he's going to do. I've heard some things saying he's going to go back to school, but I just can't see that. With that bowl game, well, we'll see how he plays against Washington. That'll really dictate it. But that Big 12 championship game alone, like that type of game and that type of setting, plus what he did against Bama, like I think there's enough high-level stuff there that people are going to be convinced that like late first round, he should be someone who's taken. Someone that like, hey, get the 5th-year option for. Like this is going to be you get the 5th-year option with Quinn Ewers, it's worth taking, Like he's going to be that guy this year. But maybe he does decide to go back to school. That'd be really weird, especially with, the Manning nephews, with Arch Manning, they're right on, his heels. It feels a little weird to go back to Texas, but we'll see. Maybe he goes to the transfer portal. I don't know. But in this mock, kind of realizing, oh, shit, okay, maybe he does declare. He falls a little bit more than maybe he should have. I don't know. He's a really, really weird one because the highs are great. The highs are like, dude, take this guy in the top 15. Like, he's definitely worthy of it. And then every other game's like, I don't know what I'm getting out of Quinn Ewers. It's a true roll of the dice. But it shows up in big moments, and maybe the Falcons can sell themselves on, like, hey, we can develop this guy. And we have the offense to make it easy. Arthur Smith, give him all his flack, but he is a pretty good run game designer. And because of that, the pass game does get opened up a little bit. He'll have some good receivers to throw to. He'll have a great running back in the backfield. Actually, a few of them, honestly, with Algier and Bijan. So it could be an advantageous situation for Ewers to step into, plus a good offensive line. So again, kind of just forgot about him as I was preparing this, but could be one of like the most interesting names to like. Does he go back to school? It doesn't really make sense, but maybe that Washington game dictates it. Because if he balls out there, there's no shot in hell he's going back to school. There's just no way. If he balls out against Washington, he's declaring, and he probably does a lot higher than 53. Then we get to the Indianapolis Colts once again on the clock at 54. I'm gonna give him Gabriel Murphy. Still think they can go and get a little bit better at edge, and at the worst, like you're factoring Murphy being the third guy behind Deo Dengbo and Kwity Paye, but also just another guy that like. he is as productive a college pass rusher there is. 3 straight years of an elite pass rush grade from PFF. 18+% pass rush win rate this year in the Pac-12. In a year where the Pac-12 is better than it's ever been. He's just been, and that's the thing. It's like not just been this year. It's been the last 3 years. And he's also a high-level run defender. Like, it's not just one or the other. He's just been a great player at the college level. And that type of production fall into your lap with ideal size to go with it. At 54, it's hard to pass on. Then we get to the Cleveland Browns at 55. I'm going to go Jalen Polk here. Ultimately, I just don't think Elijah Moore is that good. I think that's a scouting miss on my end. I really thought him and Kadarius Toney, I thought one of them would go in the first round, the other one would be top of the second. That's exactly what ended up happening. And I thought they both deserve that. And to this point, just Kadarius Toney just does not look like a first rounder, to say the least. And Elijah Moore does not look like an early second rounder. And, some of that's, he's been dealt a tough card with Sean Watson being out for the rest of the year. Maybe there's still reason to buy into Elijah Moore. But I don't want to be the Cleveland Browns and have a championship-level defense and a quarterback that I'm paying all this money to and get into a spot where I find out Elijah Moore is not him, right? Like, I don't want to get midway through next season and be like, damn, it's Amari Cooper and no one else. Do we make a trade? Like, what can we do to bolster this pass game? When I can be proactive instead of reactive, take a Jalen Polk here, and in a perfect world, Polk's awesome. Cedric Tillman breaks out in year 2, and Elijah Moore is that fourth guy rotating in, and he's a really productive player and keeps everyone fresh. Or maybe in a more realistic point, Cedric Tillman is your Donovan Peoples-Jones next year. Hopefully we get to see more of him because I did like him coming out of Tennessee. And Jalen Polk's just your Elijah Moore upgrade. It's another year of Amari Cooper kind of leading the way. That's probably a more realistic outlook. But again, I don't want to find out Elijah Moore is not good and not have an answer for it midway through next season. I want to be proactive, not reactive. So I like the fit there with Polk. He's been awesome this year at Washington. And I like the need fit there for Cleveland. To the Houston Texans at 56. This is the pairing that I wanted to have happen last week, but then I jumped the gun. Chris Braswell, Alabama edge rusher, pairing up with Will Anderson. Maybe they'll bring back Derek Barnett, too, as that third guy, the veteran to coach up, a second-year player by then, Will Anderson, and a rookie in Braswell. Love that a ton. Braswell's really impressed me. I was really concerned what he would look like this season, especially with Dallas Turner getting a lot of attention. I was like, this is going to be a year where they need Braswell to win one-on-ones, and I don't know what he's going to be. He's a true unknown factor. And he's really impressed me this year. Really solid athlete, and I think as the year's gone on, he's become a better and better pass rusher. Like, he's getting there technically. So I think a guy that's on the upswing, and that's the type of guys I want to buy into. Kind of like what I talked about with Nate Wiggins earlier. Like, when I see a guy getting better and better, those are the dudes I want to buy into. So I can see a world where Houston's like, hey, he's just on the ascent. Let's grab him now. D'Amico Ryans has already done a great job. He'll be able to work his magic with Chris Braswell as well. And then again, maybe it's more incentive to bring back a Derek Barnett type and keep a veteran around in that room to coach those guys up. Back to the Jags at 57. I'm going to go Troy Franklin here. I think, Ridley can be the deep threat, but Franklin's probably a little bit faster. And he's also just another guy you can scheme easy throws to. Like, that's like I said earlier with Bo Nix. A lot of screens in that offense, and a lot of them go to Troy Franklin. So this could be the guy that is the extension of the run game. We needed to get Trevor Lawrence in confidence and in rhythm in the first quarter. So easy throws to Troy Franklin. Let's see what we can pick up and just put the ball into the hands of a playmaker who's got an abundance of speed and plenty of lateral movement. Like, I don't see where that's a bad idea. And plus, I know the Ridley stats with Zay Jones on the field are like through the roof, but look, Zay Jones just probably not a long-term piece. He's probably not going to be on this roster in 5 years. Let's say the Jags win a Super Bowl in 5 years. Is Zay Jones a big reason why? No. Is he on the roster? Probably not. So this could be another piece that with Christian Kirk, with Calvin Ridley, assume they bring him back, that's the receiver trio of the future for Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. So I like this in solid value, and I haven't really talked about him actually in a lot of these mocks. I think you have to have a plan in place if we're going to draft Troy Franklin, because I don't think he's a guy that's going to create on his own. He has to be a part of your offense, and you have to have a plan to how to use him properly before you make that pick. Back to the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said earlier, we're going to go offense here. Jordan Morgan. It was a one-year deal for Donovan Smith. He's hurt right now anyways, and I think he's played kind of average to below average. So Jordan Morgan, a guy who's been awesome and bounced back from a scary injury too. It's always great to see a guy who can handle adversity and still maintain a high level of play. Really athletic guy. His arm length is going to be another guy that I'm watching once we get to the combine. He's listed at like 6'5", but I think he's probably closer to like 6'4", maybe a smidge below that too. So we'll see what NFL teams think about that and his weight, but also movement skills. I think he can be a good fit in the run game, being able to get to the second level. Plus the mirroring ability, you're going to need that in pass protection, especially when you're blocking the best quarterback in the NFL. So like that fit, and I think it's just a potential long-term upgrade over Donovan Smith. To the Detroit Lions at 59. Josh Newton kind of fell in their lap. Been a pretty productive player, 6 foot, 200 pounds, kind of ideal size. Can go get guys at the line of scrimmage, can play off, so I like his flexibility there. And Detroit's just a team that, like next year, like they need to sign one and they need to draft one when it comes to corners. Like they got to keep guys coming in through that room. And this is another team that like honestly, if they can sign two guys, one who they think is going to be a starter, and then like kind of another Emmanuel Mosley situation where they sign someone for cheap, but there's a lot of upside there. Maybe they even just re-sign Emmanuel Mosley. Wouldn't hate that whatsoever. But just kind of those like buy low, swing for the fences. Maybe this could really work out and be a value and absolute steal. I think they should, and then still draft a guy. And then depending on what happens with that, 1 year, high upside play. If that doesn't work out, maybe you go get a guy at the trade deadline. Like I think secondary is going to be a key component of the Lions' success next year. So I like the value of Newton falling to their lap at 59. Then we get to the Cowboys. I'm going to continue to make this pick because I love it. Corum to me, RB1 in this class. I just love his consistency. I love his vision. Love his contact balance. And if he's your between the tackles guy, Pollard kind of goes into this. Not necessarily RB2, but it's a true committee between those two. They're getting equal touches and reps week in and week out. But Pollard's the guy you're attacking to the outside and using as a receiving back. Corum's your between the tackle guy. I love that workload split. Then we get to the Ravens at 61. I'm going to go with Michael Hall Jr. I haven't talked about him since my way too early IDL rankings, and he was an honorable mention there. He's not going to give you much in run defense, but man, he's a fiery pass rusher. He's kind of a poor man's Kalijah Kancey. And this kind of works twofold for the Ravens. Justin Madubuike honestly, there might not be more guys who have made themselves more money this year than Madubuike, considering his, I think his salary this year was a little over $1 million. Maybe it's $2 million. But he went from getting average starter money, if that, to not quite Javon Hargrave money, but he's gonna get some dough this offseason for sure. He's gonna get paid. Maybe by Baltimore, maybe by someone else. So if Madubuike leaves, Michael Hall Jr., plug and play replacement. Or if you keep Madubuike, he's certainly an upgrade over Broderick Jones, who, let's just double check, PFF grade of 46.6, pass rush grade of 57, run defense grade under 46. Sounds like a replaceable player to me. I think Michael Hall could definitely do that, specifically from a pass rush standpoint. To the 49ers, like I said, we're doubling up on interior offensive line. Jackson Powers Johnson, to me, is the best center in this class, specifically if you're in a zone blocking scheme. He's 20 pounds heavier than Tyler Linderbaum while still having pretty much the same movement skills and being as good, getting to the second level and even pulling from the guard spot. So love that. He's been fantastic to watch at Oregon, which they need an athletic center like this. So he has been put into the toughest scheme possible if he's going to be the type of center that he is, and he's thrived in it. He's absolutely thrived in it. And again, 20 pounds bigger than Tyler Linderbaum, and a lot of people were wondering, can a 295-pound center play at the NFL level? Linderbaum's been great. I think Jackson Powers Johnson can give you all that, a little bit more power, and you plug that in the middle of this San Francisco offensive line that somehow Shanahan has been able to hide the weaknesses of. That's unbelievable. So Barton, clear upgrade, way better scheme fit than Aaron Banks. Jackson Powers Johnson is your upgrade over Jake Brendel, plus Brendel's on a 1-year deal. It's time to move on from him. He's a replacement level guy anyways. He's just a guy. Jackson Powers Johnson, you plug him in, that's a clear upgrade, but also I think center's such an underrated position that when you get a big jump in that position, the offensive line as a whole gets better. It is crazy. It's the Travis Frederick effect. I talk about this all the time. He missed some time for Dallas. They went from the best offensive line in the NFL to pretty good. And then he came back, and they were easily the best offensive line in football all over again. The center effect, when you have a great one, is felt across the entire O-line. I think Jackson Powers Johnson could be that guy for San Francisco. Then the Miami Dolphins at 63, wrapping us up, sticking to the interior offensive line. Christian Hayes could be an immediate upgrade there at left guard. He's played an entire career at right guard, so that's the only tough spot here. But him and Zach Frazier, I don't love the idea of having them flip positions, but at least Haynes, it's okay, he's just got to do everything he did at college, just do it on the left side. And Liam Eichenberg's just not good. And Haynes is a super athletic guard, very twitchy on the move, with enough size, 315 pounds, so I don't think he's a total lightweight, will get pushed around. So I think he's a perfect scheme fit for Miami, just San Francisco. It's that wide zone blocking scheme. Mike McDaniels used to be the run game coordinator in San Francisco, so it does look very similar and it plays very similar. I think Christian Hayes is a perfect upgrade there at left guard, or at the worst, he's just depth. For a team that's had to play Lester Cotton multiple times this year, has had Liam Eichenberg play center, which I can guarantee you is not his position. It's good even just having the depth for that matter. But I think Hayes is an upgrade there at left guard. Then you get to the Philadelphia Eagles to round things out. Let's go Ladd McConkey. I have not talked about my man Ladd yet in any of my mock drafts. To me, he's late first, kind of early third round, high floor guy. You know what you're expecting out of a white guy who's 6'1", 185. And not to typecast here, but look, that's what he is. He is what you would expect out of a white wide receiver who's 6'1", 185. Nothing athletically special there, but super refined as a route runner. Really awesome catching the ball over the middle of the field, absorbing hits. He just kind of fills that old Wes Welker type of role. And that's kind of what I'm envisioning here with him going to Philadelphia. He becomes that slot receiver of the future, where I do think he will play at the NFL level as slot. And it's just that shifty, over the middle, between the hashes, extra weapon, plus what you have with Dallas Goedert. Those two guys, work the middle of the field while you let Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown be impact players deep down the field, along the sidelines, and also, scheming them open over the middle too. It's not just one size fits all. There's nuance there. So I haven't talked about Ladd McConkey. I think late second round actually makes a lot of sense. And I think he could definitely be an upgrade there from a receiving standpoint over Quez Watkins. Maybe not so much from an athletic standpoint, but that's okay. Sometimes you lose a little to gain a lot. But guys, that's going to do it for my latest 2-round NFL mock draft. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I'm showcasing every pick once again, one all the way down to 64. Who's your favorite team? Did you like the picks that I gave your squad? If not, just be respectful about it. I respond to every comment that is not like, hey, you're an idiot, shut up, you don't know anything. If you come at me with respect and just your opinion, I will happily respond to you, and I'd love to know your insight. Who's your favorite team? What picks would you have made? Because that's always really insightful when you get to hear it from a fan of that squad, especially if they are able to bring some stats and some nuance to that conversation. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hit that like button if you did. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're getting really close to 3,000 subscribers. Would love to see this video be able to push us to that milestone. But guys, until next time, my name is Teach, and I'm signing off.